Good morning, Geauga County, Lake County, all of northeastern Ohio. You are listening to the voice of Geauga, where every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., you'll be informed, enlightened, and entertained. And let me guarantee you, you will be very entertained this morning. We have a special guest with us, Nikki Frenchko, running for the 14th District U.S. Congress. And we're gonna expose Nikki this morning, or actually, Nikki is gonna expose somebody else, I think. And also we
Going to
have
expose her
Jonathan.
opponent.
Yep, and we have Jonathan Broadbent here with us today. Good morning,
Good
Jonathan.
morning, all.
And this morning we're gonna be having Nikki explain to us why she thinks she is the right person for Congress over our existing congressman. And so there's a lot going on in Congress. I was watching the news. The Republicans gave in on the shutdown this yesterday, which is a little disappointing. We are going to be paying TSA and some other folks, but ICE and some of our border control folks are, well, they're being paid because they're being paid for through another source. Um, we really sent a strong message that, from a Republican Party standpoint, that we're kind of weak. But with that said, we are
For
going to have.
now. Skip, we're weak for now.
We're that's true, and so it's just my opinion on things, and there's a lot that they didn't call me and tell me about this. They didn't talk to me, ask me my opinion. Which I'm a little surprised at, but I'm sure there's things going on that I don't know, believe it or not. And so they're doing the best they can against a really um, Marxist Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party is just worrying me with their take on the world.
Yeah.
They're denigrating our troops and the effort we're trying to do to change the world over in Iran and some other places, and so
Yeah, but
it's
we
very
have
concerning.
a
So,
guest who proposes taking that on.
well, and I think so. And I did want to recognize our sponsors, Red Eft
Mm-hmm.
Arborist, who will come in and take care of all of your tree problems. If you've got a tree leaning over, it's going to take out your house, hit your house, or fall in the street, or any of that kind of stuff. Called Red EFT. He's really good at coming in and taking down trees and taking care of your other fauna that happens to be there, and also the VFW out of Chardon and Middlefield, and the American Legion out of Chardon and Middlefield. And so, with that said,
Chardon and Newberry, actually. It's Chardon and
Newberry.
Newberry American Legion. And Skip, I want to make sure to include the phone number for Red Eft. That is 440-850-4968. And we are thankful this morning to have a return visit from Nikki Frenchko, who is running against Dave Joyce. And something interesting has happened. I mentioned it yesterday during the program to set it up, hopefully appropriately, for today's conversation. At some point, a salacious comment was made about Nikki Frenchko. I understand by her opponent, it had to do with her going to a beach at some point in the past, and let's just get it out on the table. It's a nude beach. At some point in the past, somewhere perfectly legal in the world, there is a nude beach that Nikki Frenchko uh, visited, and her opponent spotlighted that. As a way to sort of clap back at her opponent, she created a website called Only Frenchco, which really took off. People started talking about it all over. They were confused by it. Some people were misled and thought that it was some sort of pornographic content or something. It is not. I've looked at it. I plan to discuss it today. Nikki plans to discuss it today. So that is a big part, not all, but a big part of what we are here to talk about today is something called Only Frenchco. And if you're on a mobile device or have a browser, you can look it up yourself.
And you can actually
Only
see it on our
Frenchco.
screen right now, Jonathan. It's up on our remote screen on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yep. So there are some pictures there that led to the whole thing of Nikki lounging on a sand beach somewhere. And that led to the thing rather than, and actually, I think this is pretty clever. Rather than hide or play defense, her campaign clapped back and said, okay, you want to talk about exposure? let's expose my opponent. And ultimately, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'll get to the punchline here. The punchline is the website contains a lot of information about the the background, voting record, and her opponent. So that's our setup for today. Nikki, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me back on. And I just want to put it out there. Dave Joyce has been invited, correct, on your program?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and he's declined. He's declined to debate me. He's declined to be in a room where we both have a microphone. When I see him, he might speak for a minute to introduce people and then leave. He will not discuss issues with me or debate me whatsoever. And I was really hoping for an opportunity to get him into a debate or have a forum where both of us can discuss our vision for our country and why we believe we're the best candidates. So, but thank you for having me on. I appreciate coming back.
Well, and to
We're
be
glad to
clear,
have you back.
he didn't decline. He just didn't respond. So we asked him to be on. I
Ah,
called his office, and he just hasn't responded. Which maybe he's just very very busy, um, taking care of business. Maybe.
Yeah. So the so stepping back for a moment, for anybody that didn't listen to or may not have had opportunity to go back and listen to the program that you did with us in the past, can you introduce yourself? What brought you into politics? What's your background in politics? And a little bit about your positions, your stance on issues, and your vision for America.
well, so my background is I have a master's degree in public administration. I served in the United States Army Reserves. I worked in a consulting capacity doing basically I'd say economic community development, uh, land use planning, and for CT consultants, and it spanned an area of northeastern Ohio. I represented, I believe, 9 different communities. I've worked in real estate as a real estate agent, investor, a small business owner, and I've gone to appraisal school. So I've helped folks to fight the property taxes by contesting them at the local level. I've done that as well. And most recently, I was an elected official. I was Trumbull County Commissioner, and that's where at that point, as a commissioner, when I noticed that my congressperson wasn't showing up for my community when we were losing our number one employer, which was not just, it wasn't manufacturing, it was an actual hospital. So in Trumbull County, our largest hospital is Trumbull Memorial Hospital. There's also Hillside Rehabilitation Hospital. There were 7 centers regionally that were all shut down uh, because of Steward Health, and there is a vulture capitalism scheme where they bought distressed Cerberus. Actually, Cerberus is a private equity firm. They bought a distressed business and hospitals in groups, right? And then they would strip the assets. And in this case, it was the real estate. They put it into a real estate investment trust. Um, Took out, I think they extracted like $300 million, and then saddled this hospital system with debt to the point where they were still extracting funds for themselves. Which in that case, after they filed for bankruptcy, it's considered fraudulent conveyance, and it was a scheme. It was a
It
complete
sounds like
scheme,
it
and
sounds like vulture capitalism.
it's what they did to the steel mills.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah,
it happened all throughout the '80s and '90s, and
right.
kudos to you for stepping in and recognizing that. Uh,
Yeah,
it at a and it sounds to me like you have a history of fighting for people and fighting
right.
important topics like that one, which is
Yes.
something that should resonate with people. And I understand from your posts, and some of them are very impactful. There's
Right.
a post where you're holding a rifle. There's one you're a strong advocate of Second Amendment rights, and I understand
Mhm.
First Amendment as well.
Right. As far as it relates to the Second Amendment, I'm I was not endorsed because they don't do endorsements, but Ohio gun owners rated me 100% with an AQ rating. They rated David Joyce as an F, because he actually wrote the letter to Joe Biden offering to participate in helping advance the Safer Communities Act, which is federal funded gun control.
Yep.
So he actually opposes. I'm pro gun and he's pro gun control. And as far as it relates to free speech, I am a person who is a strong advocate for my constituents, even to the point where when I was an elected city and county commissioner, let me get back to this. I beat the Democrat Party chairman, and I was the first Republican elected in my county for, I want to say, close to 40 years. And I took on the swamp. It was a complete establishment swamp. They were running our county into the ground. They didn't understand how government should be. It was a good old boys club. So I came in with my background, my experience, and I brought I wanted to do performance evaluations. I wanted to make sure that we were actually bidding, required to be bidding jobs properly. They had no
Nikki, I need to
procurement.
step in. We're coming up on a
Okay,
break, but we're pausing at bidding processes and your
right.
skill set in that arena. Please feel free to join us on social media. That's Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Don't forget to click that like button. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can dial in 440 946 9468. We'll come back with more on the other side of the break.
Like,
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right, so Nikki, the radio
yes.
on the radio side, then mics are off. On the broadcast side, we are still broadcasting and
Oh,
on audio for our listening audience. So our listening audience on podcast, our live stream, get to see a little behind the curtains glimpse into our radio show break. So we are still live, but this is an opportunity off air for the radio for us to talk about the next segment. And I
okay,
do want to drill down into the website
okay.
just so that I can ask and get it into my notes. Are there any things that you would like to make sure that we cover during the course of today's hour?
Yes,
Let me suggest a couple of things too. Why don't you highlight some of the things that would expose um, Mr. Joyce's
30
positions,
seconds.
and that
30
would be on that
seconds.
people would find on your website.
Well, yeah, we're
yes,
going to get
that's
to that. Yeah, we're going to get to the website next.
okay.
Anything beyond the website, which we're going to roll
Well,
through.
yeah, I think we need to remind people to vote and that there are grassroots candidates out there and that it's an open primary. So if someone don't feel
10 seconds.
disenfranchised
10
and stuck,
seconds.
you can, okay.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and returning guest Nikki Frenchco. Before we went to break, Nikki was talking about the bidding process that was taking place in Trumbull County and how she saw some issues with that. And I'd like to drill down into those sorts of things because I've heard this story before, and to me, it speaks to tenacity, skill, and the willingness to step into sometimes a difficult environment and take on establishment to try to get things done a better way. So let's pick up where we left off. Nikki?
Hey, so we had no procurement policies, and I developed them. And in one case, they had a $500,000 a year jail contract, and they were just automatically renewing it. The name of that game was, "We'll just keep on renewing your contract, and you donate to us, and we will make sure that you have no oversight with your contract." And it was a jail medical services provider who wasn't providing the services. So the less services they provided, the bigger their profit margin was. and there was no oversight for that. We did, though, however, end up with people who were dying in our jail, which is both inhumane and it increases liability for the county. So I had some complaints from people about it. I read one of the complaints publicly, and when I did, a couple weeks later, all of the Democrats, because I was the only Republican, they conspired, required me publicly to give an apology. And when I wouldn't apologize for saying things critically about the sheriff and that jail contract, they arrested me on the spot at a meeting, marched me out on in handcuffs, and it's all done for the purpose of creating negative headlines about me. Clearly, the
Oh, of
charge was
course.
dismissed. Yeah, the charge was dismissed, and then we sued them back. And on summary judgment, Judge Phil Calabrese, a Trump appointed judge in Cleveland, uh, we won on. He said in his opening opinion when we won on summary judgment, here in America we do not jail our political opponents. So I'm that type of
Mm.
person who will stand up for what's right. I'm not. I won't be pushed around. If you can't stand up for yourself, you can't stand up for your people, and that's what I believe, and that's the kind of person that I am. As I face the people, not donors. I do what's right for the public. And another thing that I did, and you asked me about things I wanted people to be aware of. I actually fought in my community against human trafficking and sex trafficking. It was going on, and elected officials were involved in it. And they were covering for what was going on. And I preserved evidence, worked directly with the Mahoning Valley Human Trafficking Task Force, and within a year we had massage parlors shut down, but these were part of a entire system because it ran through Flushing, New York. I'm sorry, Flushing, New York, down to Hubbard. There's a truck stop area. We had reports of girls on buses. People would send them to me because they didn't trust the officials who were associated with it. And I preserved everything, worked directly with them, with the community, and they were brought to justice and shut down. And they were
Good.
driving down to Columbus and then distributing people throughout the communities or throughout the country. So I'm very much an advocate of. I'm a watchdog. I'm a mama bear kind of person, and I look out for people, and then they trust me, and that's what I loved about being commissioners. People came to me, so.
Excellent. Now I know we're going to, at some point, Skip needs to step away because Skip has a meeting at the county
Okay.
level. And before we lose Skip to his drive time to get in, thank you again, Skip. If you are a first time listener to Voice of Geauga, Skip Claypool is very engaged in the communities, active on a number of different boards. This morning is a board meeting, so a little bit later in the show, perhaps just a few minutes early, Skip will need to step away in order to be to that meeting on time. We actually, here's a teaser. Skip sometimes is kind of man on the street. He will go out and do Voice of Geauga remotely from the outside of meetings, like county board meetings. Before we lose Skip to this important meeting he's headed to, I want to drill down on the website. And we have it pulled up. If you're on social media, on Facebook, Rumble, or YouTube, you can see one of the screens is, you'll see in the lower left-hand corner, it says Only Frenchco. That is, again, the website. You can go there yourself, onlyfrenchco.com. And what we're seeing is sort of a little twist and a clapback on concerns that Nikki's opponent expressed about her having been naked at some point. Let's just get that on the table. So I know for that can be, for some people, it's a confusing subject or something. But I am one of those people that think that if you are in a political race and somebody tries to sling mud or accuse you of something, don't cower, don't run away from it, don't duck, don't try and go on defense. And Nikki did just that and said, okay, you want to talk about exposure? Let's use this moment to expose my opponent. That was her tactic. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing at onlyfrenchco.com. Now, Skip, if you could scroll down, I'm looking at the website myself, and there's a banner scrolling across that says, "Warning, Washington insiders may find this content offensive." So it's kind of a little play on concept where you might go to some pornographic site or something and see nudity. There is no nudity here. I want to be clear about that, people. There's no nudity. What you're seeing is Nikki and her campaign team have put together a website of things that she feels the public should be aware of and finds concerning related to her opponent, Dave Joyce. That's all it is. This is politics, people. And instead of cowering, she got creative in her response to concerns about her nakedness. So when you click on that, and for a while it was locked, the website was locked like a pornographic website would be. This is now unlocked. You can go there. Again, I want to reiterate, this is safe. You're not going to see any scandalous pictures. You can
Yes.
click on it. You can go there, and the first thing you'll see is you've unlocked the truth. Now see just Dave stripped down. Strip away the branding and the talking points, and just Dave looks nothing like the Republican he pretends to be. So that is what's behind all of the hullabaloo about this website. It is a website that has a whole bunch of images and track record voting history for her opponent, Dave Joyce. That's our starting point. And Skip, well, actually, let me ask the question. How long do we have for this morning, Skip?
I may stick it out till the end because I'm trying to figure
Oh.
out how to stop the stream. I have to stop the stream before I leave, but it'll be
Gotcha.
about 15 minutes, just after
So-
the last break.
Skip, if you can scroll up and follow along with what we're talking about here on the image that's you're publishing on the website. Anybody who is listening, feel free to go, or if you hear this later, you can go and watch the video. You can find it again by looking for Voice of Geauga on Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube, your platform of choice. And Skip, if you could scroll up and show us the image. There we go. So Skip has the image of exactly what I'm talking about. So let's take it from there. Over to you, Nikki.
So I want to clarify this. I was on a beach in another country privately alone, and what people were trolling me as a result of David Joyce calling me Naked Nikki. And once he started that phrase for me, he had his supporters and his people were commenting on me and saying, well, "Where's your OF page? Where's your OF?" And that's a very scandalous thing. The OnlyFans page. And I was like, these people are being terrible to me. So mine, I did an OF of myself, but it was only Frenchco, not OnlyFans. I would never do anything like that in a million years. So on the front page, which says only Frenchco, it says only Frenchco protects your Second Amendment rights and is graded AQ by Ohio gun owners. Only Frenchco supports abolishing property taxes. Only Frenchco opposes data centers in our district. Only Frenchco is the Republican who will put America first. Only Frenchco served in our nation's military. So this was used as a place for me to explain more about myself and him. Only Frenchco did not spend billions of dollars in COVID mandates and tracking systems. So this is what I did. Only Frenchco is graded A with Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom. So what I did was explain things about myself because I support term limits. I support members of Congress being banned from inside stock trading. So I use the front page in order to show all the things about myself. So there's no confusion. But because he's a minister of propaganda, he's been out there conveying to people through rumor mills that this is something that it's not. And I'm so grateful you had that for you giving me an opportunity to expose what's on the other page and to explain what's on the front, which is my platform.
Yeah, so you took what you were given and used
Right.
it to your advantage. You took an attack on you and turned it into an opportunity to communicate uh, about your campaign and about your opponent. So that's all
Right.
this is. I want to be perfectly clear. There has been a lot of confusion about it, but
Yes.
I think that's pretty clever campaign marketing. We're coming up on another break. Pardon me. We're coming up on another break. I want to encourage people to find us on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. Follow. Don't forget to click that like and share button. Join the conversation at 440-946-9468. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right. So once again, we're on break, but our streaming audience can hear us.
I'm hoping that you can, that people will look up my Facebook because it's really strong. We're reaching over 1 million people a month. I have a lot of reels on there. I show everywhere I've been throughout the district because I want people to know that I'm actually connecting and working with people, getting to know everyone. I've been all over the district. Um, I've done a meet and greet in every county, and I just keep going and
That sounds like a
circling
wild
back and
schedule.
circling back. I mean, I don't have the $3.5 million, so I'm working,
Is
and I
is
think
that
that's important.
is that the war chest of your opponent? Three and a
Yeah,
half
and
million
you
dollars.
know, the worst thing is he was on the news and he said, if I were so bad, why do I keep getting elected and winning by double digits? Well, no one wants to run again. People are intimidated by his war chest, but I want to know how much did he win when he beat Matt Lynch? Does anyone know? Was it only a few
Oh yeah, yeah,
percent,
yeah. When
3%?
he ran against Matt Lynch, it was only like 2 points or something. It was a few thousand votes.
Very.
It wasn't very
Wow,
So,
much.
that's unfortunate. I
right.
like Matt Lynch. Yeah,
So, but that's what he's out there telling people. I win by double digits. Well, no one's really mounting a serious campaign against you, pal. And when someone did last time, you only lost by a few percent.
yeah,
So,
couple of points.
I
And
think I
I have
think
no
that's
idea the
important.
numbers on that, but I can imagine the amount that gets spent on these campaigns to try
Right.
and confuse and influence people is
Oh,
outlandish.
the Trump endorsement is wild. Why is if you can speak to that, this is the last January 6er who has a Trump endorsement. I it's unbelievable, but it
I
was a
don't know.
blanket thing. I think that's important for people to know also, is it was a blanket endorsement of all incumbents
Oh,
because folks are curious about that. They're like, why did he endorse
well,
the
I'll
one
leave that up
person?
to you to bring up and approach
Okay.
how you feel most
Okay.
appropriate.
I think
That's
that's on the second page that he's the last January 6th commission person.
Well,
I
and
think
that's
I
the
put that
thing.
on that.
That's the thing that irritates me because I was there in January 6th, and there was 1 million patriots, old people, people with walkers. It would be the last group in the world you want for an insurrection. Trust me. And
yeah,
carrying American flags, singing "God Bless America," and we all got vilified. Now there were a handful of people, and by the way, there were instigators in the crowd who were trying to get everybody to do things. I remember
yeah.
going by. I forget what building it was, and there was some guy saying, "Hey, we got to get into this building," and everybody just looked at him and said, "Yeah, no." And so
Wow.
there were
Didn't
some
they?
instigators in the crowd, and there were people who were excited, and by the way, the guards for the Capitol building were letting people up. I mean, it was kind of a confusing situation because people were wanting to go up
30
closer to the
seconds. 30
Capitol building,
seconds.
and the guards were working with them. They were talking to them. They were friendly. It was
Yeah.
really confusing.
There's video of them moving barricades and waving people up, like, "Hey, come on in." That's totally entrapment in my book. The videos that I've seen. So I'll leave it to you, Nikki, if you want to bring
10
that up.
seconds. 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and returning guest Nikki Frenchco. Nikki was just commenting during the break, and actually, as I think as we were beginning to go into break, about her social media profile, and is encouraging people to find her on Facebook. Apparently, Nikki said you're engaging with 1 million people a week on
Yeah,
your Facebook.
well, right. It's Nikki Frenchco for Congress, NIKIFRENCHKO for Congress, and we are very active on there because we are active in the community. Since I filed, I have been to every county several times. I've done a meet and greet in every community. I've been to the Liberty Coalition, to the Tea Party movement meetings, Patriots Stand United. I go to all of these. The Young Republicans of Portage County had me out, and I keep on going back and meeting with people. And I think that's important. And unfortunately, what we have now is someone who faces the donors instead of the district. He has lost touch with what we are here in the Northeast Ohio, and he's more interested in catering to those who donate to him, which is why you see him voting with the Democrats so often and not with the Republicans. It's because of his donor base. And when you've got someone who's taking money from a super PAC linked to China, that's why you're going to have a congressman who votes for the kill switches in the cars with the Democrats and is voting for that global agenda and supports NOACA as it relates to the 15-minute cities. And also he supports FISA, which is kind of wild to me. I'm very interested in freedom and privacy, and those are the types of things that I don't think represent the 14th district well.
Now let's drill down a little bit there. You mentioned something
Let,
very interesting
let,
to
let
me.
me let me
What
make
is
a
this?
let me make a quick point, Jonathan. If
Sure.
you look at Bernie Moreno, for example, he's a senator. Senators on the pecking order, I think, get a little bit higher on the pecking order. Bernie Moreno will go out in the public and meet his public. He was in Medina all the time talking to people. He comes to various places and he will address the audience. He'll answer really tough questions. I've heard the Democrats sneak into the meetings and they'll hammer him, and that's fine. And he responds well. I think our elected officials should, and I have no grievance against Dave Joyce. I think Dave Joyce is a capable person in many ways, but everybody who is elected for the people to represent the people should meet with the people and address their questions and address their concerns and be willing to get out there and talk to people. Dave's current mode of operation is to be very selective when he's going out and speaking because he doesn't want to run the risk that he might get into an unfriendly crowd or people asking him tough questions. And that's sad. I mean, again, I don't dislike Dave. I could have a beer with him and I'd love to have some political conversations with him. But that's the one thing I will give to you, Nikki. You are everywhere. You have no money. You're a grassroots candidate who is just out there hustling like crazy, trying to get money,
Right.
trying to meet with everybody, and I'll give you kudos for that.
Trying to
That's not
compete
a,
with a
that's not an
$2.5 million
endorsement, by the
war
way.
chest.
That's not an
That's it.
endorsement. That's just me commenting on the differences in the two candidates. So
Yeah, that's she's
Right.
taking the only approach available, really, when you're up against the $2.5 million war chest.
Three and a half.
$3.5 million
Three and a
war
half.
chest.
Well,
Visibility is key.
and he was boasting on the news about how he's so well loved and he wins by double digits all of the time. And if he was that bad, people would have he would have lost an election. Now, the last time someone with any money and seriousness really came against him was Matt Lynch, and he only beat Matt Lynch by a few thousand votes. I believe it was 2 or 3%. That's what I believe that was. And that was before we inherited him down here. We didn't want him. We just inherited him with gerrymandering. Okay. So that's something to consider. And also, people are tired. Look, when you've been elected since 1988, You're a career politician. You look up career politician and you'll see his picture. Honestly, 38 years elected. You haven't had a real job other than just being at the government trough. And I think it's just time that we get rid of the people who have been there doing nothing for others but themselves. He's and his donors. Self enrichment with the inside stock trading. It's just time that we have elected officials like Bernie Moreno, who's a friend of mine, and we communicate. Actually, when Bernie Moreno first came out, I got him on the radio show down here with Ron Verb. I helped him with his literature at the Trumbull County Fair, and he's in the car industry, and so is my daughter over in Akron. So I think the world of him, and I'd be happy to work with him. Whenever we had the issues with the hospital, I started texting him about it as well. He was a bit more responsive. We didn't get anything with Joy. So I think it's just time to get rid of the people who have been there forever and are kind of do nothing status quo people. And in fact, he identifies himself as an institutionalist. He will say,
Hmm.
I'm a conservative, fiscal conservative, constitutional conservative, Christian conservative, privacy hawk, freedom hawk. And here he says, I'm an institutionalist. Institutionalist to me is code for what? Deep state, uniparty. What is an institutionalist? It's someone who goes along to get along.
And that's
That's
exactly that's the problem we've got in Congress is instead of voting on conviction, they vote to be a part of the herd. And
right.
that's not the way our constitutional republic was established. It was established to have representatives. Unfortunately, we changed our senator situation. They're supposed to represent the state or be picked by the state, but they're supposed to represent our interest. And I'm not,
Exactly.
and
Get back
oftentimes
to
I don't think they do.
get
The
back to
distract.
citizen legislature.
Yeah.
Well, I try to explain to people that's the job of a congressperson to go to DC and represent the district, not to go to DC and represent the donors. And that's
Right.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
And also we have this endorsement that everyone's saying, well, he's endorsed by Donald Trump. I see these commercials. Well, Trump did a blanket endorsement of every incumbent in Ohio. He did this back in December with the ORP chair recommending it, and he endorsed the person who was the last January 6er, voted for the January 6th commission, voted with Nancy Pelosi. Okay,
On the
and so
January 6th
do
commission.
you think
Wow.
do you think that President Trump knew that when he was signing that signing the blanket endorsement? Of course not. Of course
Well,
not. There was
that's
no one who filed. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. At that point, you had not filed. There were at one point there were three. It was a third person. Happens to be a friend of mine who is backed out of the race, and so now it is head to head. It's you and Dave Joyce. So the decision comes down to you, we the people, the
Right.
listening audience. Get out and vote. Listen, and please, I implore you, listening audience, dig for the real information. If you
Right.
see postcards or there's salacious comments made about somebody, or somebody's accused of something, dig a little bit. You've got probably have a smartphone in your pocket. Look for the facts first before you go out and vote. But please do get out and vote on May 5th. If you haven't voted early, well, I'm just going to interject. I am a fan of same day, 1 day voting, paper trackable ballots, etc. We don't have that, but in lieu of that, I'm encouraging people to get out as close to election day as possible, and please do get out and vote. But Nikki, I want to drill down on something you said a few moments ago that caught my attention. And you said something about a super PAC that has connections to China. Tell us more about that.
Well, you can go on, was it Open Secrets? And you can do deep research and you can find all of the donors that donate to everyone. The one and the other one that I think is interesting because people are saying, why is he voting with the Democrats all the time? The other one is the Center Forward Initiative. That's his
Oh,
main donor, and that's because he caucuses with Main Street, and those are the folks who are encouraged. They're basically given money to vote with the Democrats. So you've got the different groups that they caucus with. And I personally, I would be a Freedom Caucus person because I align mostly with Liberty and Freedom Caucus. That's where you're going to have Lauren Boebert. Used to be Warren Davidson was part of that. Jim Jordan is, I believe, I can't remember if Tim Burchett is, but I love him too. That those are the folks that I would be caucusing with, the real Republicans. And then you've got him. He caucuses with the Main Street, and they get the money. They get donations from Center Forward, and they're just basically getting you to vote with the Democrats because they want you to be in the center, and that's why he has a score of 44%. But you can look up all of his campaign finance. Mine are small donors, people in the community. His are PACs, super PACs, So
It seems to be the case that the big money, unfortunately, comes from viewpoints, people, places, and organizations, and even governments that oppose American institution, that oppose we the people. We're coming up on a break, but I'm going to finish that thought as we lead into our third and final break. There is, if you get into politics, there are effectively sort of two paths. One seems to have a lot of money connected to it and is anti-American. It's counter-American, and it's created the uniparty. The other is sticking tried and true to your principles. It means frequently less money, but more value to the constituents. We're going to come back with more on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
I'm going to run a quick test here, so be patient with me. All right, talk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
oh,
Okay. Yeah, that's not going to
That
work.
failed. So, okay. I needed
There
to.
we are. That's we Skip and I have been experimenting with all kinds of different software and technology since we first rolled this out. December 2nd was our first show, our first Voice of Geauga, and Skip is experimenting with some new software that might allow him to run this show remotely using the software that runs the podcast live stream side. So that's what you heard there. You're going to have to keep tinkering. I sometimes feel a little bit like the mad scientist with all kinds of different software and hardware, different things that we put together in order to make this show happen. So that apparently didn't work. And we'll keep trying.
And I want to make a comment when we come back on air. And I'll say this to the Facebook, Rumble, YouTube crowd. Nikki, I want to thank you. Win or lose, you're going to make Dave a better person because he's being focused, or he's being forced to focus on his weaknesses, which you're pointing out. And it's steel on steel. What is it? What's the old saying about
hard out at 7:58?
Iron
Hard
sharpens.
out at 7:58.
Yeah,
I don't know.
iron sharpens steel, and so at the very least you're sharpening him. I mean, come on, he's got to thank you for
Look,
that.
If those people in the northern areas, the original people who he almost
10
lost
seconds,
to
10
Matt,
seconds.
and then if I keep my area, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and returning guest Nikki Frenchco. This is our third and final segment, fourth and final segment. If you have questions, don't forget you can call in and ask your questions directly of Nikki Frenchco at 440-946-9468. And on social media, we are monitoring Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube for questions. You can pose your questions there. If you're watching this after the fact, Nikki has pointed out some social media. There are still days ahead of us before the election. You can go and find Nikki Frenchco. I encourage, as always, go to all the resources that Dave Joyce has available. Find out, research, investigate Dave Joyce. See if he aligns with your values. If you like him
Right.
as a representative, do the same with Nikki Frenchco. Please, I implore you, do that with each and every election. Investigate. Find the people who will best represent your interests.
And I want
There
to
are,
I want to just jump in. Sorry, Nikki, for stepping on you, because I'm probably going to have to bow out here before long. But I said in the break that I want to thank Nikki for at least being in the fight, because iron sharpens steel. She's going to make Dave Joyce a better person if he wins. Maybe Nikki's going to win, in which case Dave will get a chance to retire on a beach someplace, maybe a nude beach in St. Martin's. Who knows? But that's kind of an ugly thought. But in any case, to be fair a little bit,
well,
I looked up this Main Street group, and they pose themselves as um, pragmatic conservatives. They focus on business, national security, and practical things to get things done. My concern with that practical things to get things done thing is that there's a lot of deals being made with Democrats, and as we're watching
right,
the current crop of Democrats, they're not liberals. They're not Democrats like my dad was a Democrat. They're not John Kennedy Democrats. These are Marxist Democrats. And that's
right.
very concerning to me that you would side with. I mean, there is a hard line for me. I will not
Yeah.
cross the line into Marxism, and I will push back on that at every opportunity, as I will demonstrate this morning when I go to this meeting for the Metropolitan Housing Authority in Geauga County. We're having some tough conversations there about making some change. But with that
Yeah.
said, I just wanted to jump in and thank you, Nikki, for getting in this race. Win or lose, you are
Oh.
forcing a conversation we
It,
need to have.
well, I think we need to force him into retirement. Okay, when you've been elected for 38 years, you lose, and you're in DC, you're just losing touch with people. And I I want us to get out there and vote. We cannot complain about what we get in government if we don't get out there to the polls. We have every opportunity with every primary to change who's representing us, and we need to get out there and do this. This is doable. The guy only won by 3%, 2 or 3%, when he had a good challenger last time. Now he's got a good challenger this time, and the district is extended to include my stomping ground. And I believe we can do this if we get out there and vote.
Yeah, there's a good comment here. Go look at Dave Joyce's votes in Congress. Best way to
Right.
see if he represents you. And this person has said that they don't feel that he represents them. Uh,
Oh,
Go ahead.
I have to mention, anyone listening, look up his Liberty score. It's the conservative review. Look up Liberty score, okay? And you'll see David Joyce has the 44%, and it's an F. It will show thumbs up or thumbs down on how he voted, either with the Democrats and the liberals or with the conservatives. And that's where they base his rating. You can see that he voted with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer several times on mega bills. That's another thing. He's on appropriations committee, and he continues to spend like it's the broken Washington spending machine, and he's in charge of it on the appropriations committee, which deals with the budget. And you cannot now make promises that you're going to do things better when you've had over a decade to do them the right way and have done nothing. So
Mm.
that's something that I want to tackle there. And then look up, because you see these commercials, he's America First. There's another ranking. These are independent ranking scorecards. America First Insight. Look up America First Insight. He is rated F there. So it's just duplicitous for someone to go out there, make commercials, spend millions of dollars on commercials saying that I'm an America First candidate, when America First Insight, which is an independent organization, has him rated as an F. This is as disingenuous as it gets, and we need to get rid of these elected officials who lie to us.
Well, as we struggle with rising taxes,
Right.
overspending, reducing return on investment from government sources, everything from education to roads and bridges and infrastructure, we are struggling in the state of Ohio, in particular, with very high taxes, with very little return on that investment. And
Exactly.
that really strikes a chord, I think, with a lot of people to rein in government spending and deal with our spending appropriately. Let's allocate the money that we do have in better ways and tackle waste,
E-
fraud, and abuse, which is another big thing in the top public
Which
right now.
okay, so with my background in public administration, I believe in outcome measures and performance review. So we shouldn't be spending unless we know that it's impacting things correctly. I believe in dialing it all back, reining in the spending, seeing what's impactful and what's not. Doge should have been doing this, and we
Yep.
haven't seen enough of it. And since I've run for office at the local level before Doge became a thing, that's just basic government administration 101. And those are the things that I want to do because having been an elected official at the local level, I know where the grift happens here. I know where the rubber meets the road relative to federal policy and its impact. I know what works, what doesn't, and I want to be there to help rein in that spending as well and paring down the budget rather than pushing through omnibus bills without any effort to rein in spending is wrong. I also believe in zero-based budgeting. If you're on the appropriations committee, you could be advancing that in the different departments. Like, we want to see your budget based on zero-based budgeting, where you start from zero instead of importing the last year's budget. You
And then
start,
adding 3%.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
I'm all for that. Start from the beginning, defend every line item. We ought to be doing that across the board in the government.
I love that. That's the places where they do that, they're so efficient. People are thrilled with their government when they practice that. It's cumbersome, it takes more work, and I'm the person who's willing to do the work. I enjoy these things. Only a real government nerd would go to school to study public administration, and I've done that because I love that. It's the science that I enjoy.
Well, we're under 2 minutes now. This is your last chance to enter a question. If you're following on social media, that's Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Again, please don't forget to click that like button and share this with other people. We want to grow the audience to continue to get the message of Voice of Geauga out to the public. It's Geauga, Lake, and Northeast Ohio, and the rest of the world. Nikki, you sound a lot like the many conversations that we've had around Geauga's budget. And those of us who kept bother to look at it, those of us who care to look at the budget and how government is spending money, it lights a fire. And it
It's
sounds like that same fire has been lit under you.
Yes, it's frustrating because they don't regard it. They just view it. If you knew the national debt tracker, if you saw how much we're spending as a country, it's disgusting. And they don't even view it as money because they don't recognize it. It's I I take exception to that because it's an impact. Everything we do impacts future generations, and we're ruining it for our children and our
We
grandchildren.
certainly don't want to do
Yeah.
that. I'm sorry to step on your toes. We're coming
Yeah.
up on the conclusion. Again, this has been Nikki Frenchco and a return visit. She's said a few times during the course of this show how to find her and where to find her. Find more information about her and her opponent. Please do get out and vote on May 5th. This has been the conclusion of another week of Voice of Geauga. We hope you enjoyed this program. Nikki, thanks for coming back and joining us. In the meantime, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday
Yes.
morning.